What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Of course, we have a new week. That means a new training vlog. Last week we hit 2 training vlogs. This week, this will be the first. We have our primary squat session. We are just 3 weeks out from my next competition. Unfortunately, I did forget to use my DJI Osmo Pocket 3. So all the videos you're going to see here are formed in vertical and are filmed on my iPhone. So I apologize about that, but I still wanted to make sure we get this footage in. I just have been enjoying this format, and I hope you guys have been gaining some insights as a result of it, and just finding it enjoyable as well. So I will definitely make sure I use my DJI for tomorrow's bench session, potentially even film the deadlift session later in the week. But yeah, man, without further ado, let's talk about this session. So today I had a top single with, I believe the range was 310 to 325 kilo, which if you don't know kilo math like me, it's going to be somewhere like 683 to, I don't even know, 717-ish, 720-ish, something like that. Okay. So that was the top single. This is my second week of taking heavy singles since nationals, which is crazy to think about. Today, you'll see it's the heaviest squat I've taken since nationals, which is fucking crazy. So I'm actually really excited about today. I want to preface that I genuinely do believe today was probably one of the best squat days I've had in a very, very long time, like and possibly ever when it comes to these particular loads. But yeah, so okay, let's talk about it. This is the second to last warm up. This is 5 reps. As you can see, I am in flats, but and here's one of the rewards for being a loyal supporter of these YouTube videos, because only you will know this. Naked eye tells you that I'm just wearing flat, but I'm not just wearing flats. I've got a VersaLift heel. You can buy them on Amazon for like 40-50 bucks. My coach had kind of given me the recommendation, so I can't take credit for it. But they sell these, like, they have different variations of it, but they have this like strength heel or whatever. I bought it and I slip them into the shoe. So it's a very small heel, even smaller than the gray Reeboks that I wear, which I believe are like 15 millimeters or something like that. And they feel good. They just give me just the right amount of heel that I would need to give me some more room while still being able to hold on to the stability of the flats. So this is what I'm wearing. I'll talk about why I've made the decision to commit to this later on, but let's get to the training. I did crush the volume here because even at 1, the training volume was pretty loud. So I figured it sucks to be boring here and only hear my voice, but it's better than not being able to hear anything because the training volume drowns it out. So yeah, pretty solid. Look at that technique. Boom, a little bit too much hinge there, whatever. But I'm not gonna, whatever. Like that was pretty good. I was pretty happy about it. The biggest thing about this, bro, is I'm a fucking pinball machine with this bar and this combo rack. All right, look, I like Alico. I like the brand. I've been competing on that for years. It's a family-owned business located in Sweden. Nothing against it. They make good stuff. But man, dude, I'm sorry, I have to be honest. I don't know what they were thinking when they signed off on this barbell, because there are issues with this bar, specifically two, that for a company and for people who have been so involved in making equipment for literally the best athletes and stages in the world throughout all of strength history, for them to miss these two things, it's mind-boggling. And look, we're all fallible, okay? We all make mistakes. My problem is that they haven't come out to talk about it. Why would they? I mean, look, they're a business. They want to make money. They want to sell their bars. They probably put a fuck ton of money into R&D for this thing, testing and all that stuff. But damn, man, at least talk about it. Like, I'm going to tell you what these two things are. The very first is, you see how thin this collar is here? Whatever you would call that, the space between where the barbell is and the actual like sleeve. When that's not wide, it makes it extremely easy to bang either side of a combo rack, especially a combo rack that's this overbuilt like a Rogue. And Alico, you still get it, but it's not as bad because the Alico is just a little bit more closed in. But fuck, man, dude, like, it's so annoying and it's so unnecessary. That's why it bothers me. If you train, if you squat, like, you would know that. You would know that about the bar. And it's so frustrating because it just adds to the disadvantage that this bar is for squatters, which just, is already frustrating to begin with. I'm not going to complain about it. I'm just being transparent with you that this is just my take on this bar. But so the width of this collar thing here, whatever, really makes it difficult to have a very safe and stable walkout. You have you're talking about like a matter of like inches, really, not even plural, probably an inch of a difference between when you take a step of moving laterally between your bar hitting the fucking side of the combo and causing you to pinball versus not. And that's not great, when you have a lot of weight in your back. Not only is it not safe, but it's also not an advantage, to say the least. So that's the first thing. The second thing is the whip of the bar, which I'll be honest with you, today I didn't really notice, but that's probably because this is a brand new bar, never used. It's my bar. I got very lucky. The owner of the gym is allowing me to store the bar there. I have a lock on it. I'm very grateful that he's willing to let me do that. But yeah, so I bought this bar so I could train on the new bar, and I finally am now training on it. So yeah, but it's very whippy, and that's been the case for pretty much every top level squatter in the IPF. I think they've shared that perspective, which again is a disadvantage for squatters and an advantage for deadlifters. So just just food for thought there. But regardless, we all have to compete on the same equipment, so there's no use in bitching about it. I'm just voicing my opinion. It's just strange that they would at least not come out and talk about it, or maybe not even acknowledge like it's a flaw. I don't give a fuck if you want to, use some psychological manipulation on me and tell me that it's actually a pro instead of a con. But give me reasons why. Why did you make it like this? Maybe they already did this. Maybe I don't know. I haven't done any research. I also just haven't seen anything come out about it. Whatever. We're getting way off topic. Okay. This is what happens when there's no audio in the back. I yap way too much. So this is the last warm up, 660. I wanted to go this heavy for a couple of reasons. Number one, this would have been a really good gauge on technique. This would have been a really good gauge on where I'm feeling for the day and how big of a jump I want to make for my top set. This also was a great gauge because it gives me quality reps in my warm ups that when you like zoom out and you look at the macro, there is a very big difference between an athlete who gets more heavy exposure and more reps in, more real work in on his warm-ups than the guy who doesn't. Because let's say I jump straight from my 5 reds to my top set, which an old version of me probably would have done. I'm only getting practice then with that heavy stuff once, not including my one back down single that I had for today, which you guys will see. By adding this in, I get it, it's not 700 pounds, but it's still relatively heavy. By adding this in, I've increased my exposure by a lot. I've gone from 2 reps today to now 3, which doesn't sound like a lot, but that's a lot. So, point is, I took this 660 because it would give me a good gauge on technique, a good gauge on the top set number, but then also, too, it just gives me more quality training that I can accrue, So yeah, we'll watch it one more time. Very happy with it. You'll probably notice I took the safeties off because I was banging plates again. One of the downsides to this being so small is you run the risk of, again, those plates just being too tight to the face savers, and so you can hit the face savers. I was happening on some warm up, so I decided to take them off. And then I turned this thing in so that I had more room on the sides. So yeah, nice patient, good brace, good depth. Everything stayed nice and tight, nice and stable. So I was actually really happy with that. Up next, top set. So 660 to, this was 322.5 kg. So I didn't want to take the full 325 because honestly, the 661 didn't feel amazing. Like it felt heavy. But I knew that like, I'm not going to take 310 and I'm not going to take 315 because I took 310 last week. It's the same fucking number in my opinion. And 320, well, if I'm going to take 320, I might as well just take 322.5 because I'm right there, those little silvers are going to be the reason why I fucking fail a squat, So I went 322.5, which in my opinion is a smart move. Also gives me some room to stick to the RP, which is 8.5. And also gives me some room to have a good gauge going into like the following week. So yeah, so this is 322.5. This is like 711, I think. Really taking my time here. Really trying to get this back super, super, super tight. Breathe deep into the stomach. I'm really trying to picture filling up the air from the bottom up to the top as opposed to trying to get air up top, right? That's a common mistake I see. And sometimes like if I'm not mentally reminding myself of how to brace properly, I will do that too. You just take right? You see that chest rise. That's usually the first sign that someone is breathing in incorrectly when trying to brace. You don't want to see this rise. You want to see this expand. You want to see the bottom half expand. So that's what I tried to do here. Again, be really strong, stable, and patient with the unrack. Guys, if there is one thing I could tell you about squatting heavy, no matter where it is, on a platform, in a gym, doesn't matter. One of the best ways to ensure you're going to have a great squat is patience. If you just be patient, now it will feel uncomfortable. It's going to feel heavy and it feels like it's crushing you, right? And the more time you spend under that bar and under that weight, the more time you're feeling it crush you. But I promise you, it will pay itself forward tenfold because then you will introduce stability into the movement. The moment that you rush everything, especially this unrack, let me tell you what happens. If I were to just rush the unrack, right? Boom, pop up, that bar's now whipping, right? So now that bar's moving and it's going to move me. Now, if I even rush from there to take my step, more movement, more rushing, and then I try and get set, but I have to spend energy to stabilize myself under the bar because I've created all this extra motion that wasn't necessary, wasn't there before. Rather, get on the bar, nice and tight, stand up, unrack, and just let it settle. Just sit there, a couple seconds. Then step, sit there, step, sit there. If you're not in position yet, get into position, settle. So the name of the game is just patience. So you can see that. Look, boom, boom, boom. Not rushing anything, letting everything settle. Nice air here. Really trying to wrench everything in. And really not bad. Not a bad single, dude. Like, again, considering the fact that I haven't touched 700 or more since April or whenever last Nationals was, come on, dude, this is great. And not to mention that, like, this was a maybe single, in previous peaks, to be honest with you. In previous peaks, it was like, fuck, like, I've got 4 weeks to take, something that feels like shit and, everything's kind of going shitty and make it work. Whereas now, like, we've got momentum. I don't really know where this is going to put me come, what do you call it? Come rising tide. But the fact that, we can hit depth, new shoes, and do it really just like second week into taking heavy singles, like, to me, that's a great sign. And yeah, I mean, I'm pretty happy with it, to be honest with you. Again, could it have been deeper? Of course, it could always be deeper, but I'm actually pretty happy with depth. Um, really, really happy with how much air I took in here, really trying to fill this up. And when I tell you, man, the amount of tension I was trying to feel into my back, pull everything in and down, and just lock in here. And then what initiated the descent was kind of like trying to open my taint, like Ed Cohen would say. And what that does is it allows me to not feel like I have to, like, bend over. It also allows me to not feel like my butt has to arch and go back. Instead, when I open up the taint, that's what kind of creates the break in the hips without the knees having to, like, just shove forward and push out. So it creates a lot of stability there. So this honestly felt pretty good. I took a little bit of a wider stance than I took in previous blocks when wearing these shoes. I think that helped. But I gotta say, man, this is probably the most stable 700 pounds or more has ever been on my back. I've moved 700 pounds or more way faster in the past. I've moved 740, 727 super fucking fast. But in terms of stability, like, the amount of control that I had going down into the hole, like, I could feel it. And then coming back up, I really don't know if I've had that type of stability in the past. I'm really actually feeling like I'm using my muscles to squat as opposed to just, like, get tight, brace, and then try and crunch myself down into the hole and then fire up. So I'm actually really happy with this. Boom. Little bit of breakdown here, as we come down, but I'm not even going to nitpick that. I thought that this looked great. Stayed tight the whole way, drive up, boom. I thought that was great, dude. Great single. Now, my back down single, actually, before I do that, I believe the next video is a front angle that a friend of mine in the gym took. Very shitty quality, so it actually helps me because depth looks great here, I think. But it's not clean enough footage to know for sure. If only this was the judge's view. Although they'd probably just give me 3 reds anyway. Boom. Not bad, but that's got to be depth, bro. Come on. You saw that dunk? Not bad, but dude, like, look at that. Look at how stable that grind is. Look at that. Boom. Stable grind. No shifting, no fucking nothing. Like, just stable. And that's what I'm really looking for because that means it's repeatable on the higher stuff. If you start to break down here, Probably going to break down when it gets even heavier. And we saw some of that breakdown on last week's 683, whereas this week we were able to clean it up. So I'm very happy about that. Cool. We're going to move on. The last squat I had was a single with minus 10 kg. So we took 312.5, which I don't know what the fuck that is. I think that's like 688. It's like 688 or 6, it's something like that. 683 is 310. So I guess plus 5 pounds. Yeah, it's got to be 688, which this is a heavier single than I took last week. So as a back down, I'll take it. Again, same thing, really patient, taking our time here, nice and tight, try to go deep and fight that. You know, the one thing that you will see is I am fighting a little bit with this back, and it's really just because I'm in flats. My natural tendency is to arch. My butt likes to shoot up and back, and so, you know, I hit a sticking point as I come up. But, you know, because I was staying really, really tight and trying to create the stability with my hips, you know, it honestly, I think it went really well. And one thing I am also working on too, which is actually funny enough, another thing that I think Ed Cohen has talked about in the past, is trying to also think about the squat as a back movement and not just a leg movement. Your legs will naturally push to the floor just for the sake of survival. But sometimes what we miss is the fact that our back also has to push into the weight. Otherwise, if we just let it do what it wants, you'll get either some wonky shit, you know, like some crazy arching, or your chest will just collapse, you know, and you end up fucking good morning the weight. So you really do have to be mindful of like, okay, I'm going to get super tight and just drive that shit up with my top half. So, yeah, so pretty cool. Like I'm actually like genuinely really, really happy with how squats went today. So RDLs, you probably saw last week we did 3 reds and a green for 2 sets of tempo. Today I decided to do 3 reds and a blue. Next week, my week 3, I will probably do 4 reds and stop there. Maybe I'll do 4 reds and blacks to bring it to 500 or whatever that would be, 497, whatever the fuck. But I don't know, whatever. I mean, we have the tempos in here to kind of like pull me back, you know, a little bit. But I don't want to go too light. I want it to be hard, but I also don't want to go so heavy that it completely, you know, crushes my CNS and then burns my erectors apart and my low back apart before I have heavy deadlifts, you know, in a couple days. So yeah, here, you know, really just also, you know, by the way, what I really like about these RDLs is that they force me to trial and error my conventional start position, because this is only 464 right here, right? So if this feels heavy as fuck when I pick it up on the first rep, my start position is ass. That's basically what that means, right? Because I am conventional deadlifting this for a rep to get it up to the top. If it feels pretty light and easy, that means my conventional start position was good. And so funny enough, like I do use this first rep to kind of gauge like, okay, how's my start position on the conventional? You know, am I getting tight enough, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, this is the second set. I believe I did 8 reps. I know I could have done 10. Maybe I did a full 10, but I don't think so. But really the name of the game right now is just hard quality training without over fatiguing. So we got a hamstring right there. One thing you got to be careful of though is reaching with the bar too much. See how much space there is between the bar and my shins by the time I get down there. That's okay because it helps you get a little bit more stretch here. The problem is it puts a lot more strain on the lower back, because if that bar is not in line with my center of mass, which would be like right here, my center of gravity, then my lower back is what's connecting this to this, right? So that's when your lower back starts to get sore, get a pump, sometimes even starts to ache a little bit. And that happened to me after this set. The previous set, I didn't let that bar get too far ahead. I kept it basically just grinding against my legs, and, you know, really zero lower back issues whatsoever. But, you know, maybe I feel just a little less in the hamstring and glute. So yeah, like I said, it's supposed to be tempo. You can call it a second and a half, 2 seconds, whatever. All I was thinking is like, let me just take my time. Let me just slow it down a little bit. You know, I'm not trying to fucking do a 30-second tempo on the RDLs. I just want to make this just a little bit harder than I normally would, so that we can have a reason to keep the weight lighter while still training intensely. This is Bulgarian split squats. I did not film all the exercises today. I think there's only one more after this that I filmed, but because otherwise things kind of get a little redundant if they haven't already. But yeah, so you can see I'm still using my heels for these. I do like these heels for this movement as opposed to TYRs, because, you know, I just have shit stability in my hips, you know. So the cool thing about these shoes is the insoles have like pretty aggressive arch support, and they're very narrow shoes, and I have a wide instep, so it's uncomfortable, but it just like kind of acts as a crutch for my lack of like stability, I guess. And so I can just feel a ton of like inner foot pressure here, as I really try and stay as vertical as possible. I keep this shoe pretty close to the working to the machine to get a little bit more quad there. But yeah, I basically just did 12 reps, I think, on each leg, 2 rounds. And dude, you may think this is light, but I promise you, if you do these controlled and like that, you brace, try and keep that pelvic position decent. It's hard. It's hard with 50 pounds in each hand. It's fucking hard. Um, so yeah, I think I did 40 last week. My goal is probably to end the block at like 55, 60. You know, this is not something I want to push super hard, super heavy, especially not right now. It's an easy way to get hurt. Um, yeah, you can see my right side is a little bit more fucked up than my left, which has historically been the case. See how I come down this way. But anyway, yeah, so not bad though. Um, my hands are starting to give out here too. It is what it is. Get that grip training in. And one more exercise to show you guys the hamstring curls, I believe. I had single leg extensions. I had farmer's carries after, but I didn't film that stuff. So this is the second set. It's probably the heaviest I've gone on this machine so far. Obviously, the most important thing about this set is that I'm wearing Crocs. It's probably the only reason why I'm getting stronger. Crocs, to be specific. But anyway, yeah, so I went pretty heavy on this. And I focus less on the muscle. I focus more on just the movement and just getting in some really good quality reps. And so, which actually is probably like a quite a good theme to talk about before closing out. When I get to, I would say like getting closer to competition isn't the only time that I do this, but it's usually the one time that I really do focus on doing this. I'll move myself over here just to change it up. So there are times when I will use my accessories and I will, when doing my accessories, I will focus on the muscle like a bodybuilder, right? I care a little, I still want to progress the load, absolutely. But I really search for and seek that mind muscle connection and feel the muscle squeeze, feel the muscle get a pump, feel the muscle work. When I get close to a competition, I don't give a fuck about any of that. Sometimes I do this same method when I'm far out from a competition, but almost always when I'm close to a competition, I switch modes. And the mode that I switch to is I care a little bit more about the weight. I care a little bit more about going heavier, or I should say, I care more about just being an animal, just being aggressive and fucking move it. Be explosive, be strong. I don't give a fuck about the mind muscle connection. I don't give a fuck about how it feels on the chest or anything like that. I'm gonna trust that if I'm doing this motion here with a resistance, that it's going to work, that I'm going to be training the muscles I want to. So fuck it. Like, let's just, and I'm going to do it safely, but I just want to get heavy and I want to get aggressive. And I try and move as aggressively as possible while still using good technique. Honestly, the upper body day is probably one of the best days to use to show you that, because that's usually really where I use this methodology. It's harder to do that on the leg work. But yeah, so I'll show you guys in the next training video. But long story short, yeah, and you know what's crazy about it? I end up with better pumps than I do when I truly try and be all, scientific and nerdy and like, well, I have to feel my delt and I have to, when I do that, don't get me wrong, I feel great. Like I feel everything and I feel my muscles get sore. But bro, when I just worry about like, let me just load this fucking thing up, add an extra plate than I usually do, and get as aggressive as I can for 8 to 10 reps or whatever the range is. I end up after the set. So during the set, I don't feel anything in my muscle. After the set, I feel it. I feel my back. I feel it. Everything gets super swelled up with blood because my body's like, yo, that shit was heavy. That shit was hard. And then the next day, I'm actually really sore. So I also really like it too because, again, the goal right now is to tell my body, like, your job is to be resilient and strong, period. That's it. I don't need to be jacked. I don't need to feel jacked. I just need to be like a fucking tank, like a rock, like just strong and sturdy as fuck. So the more I can introduce heavier loads to my body to show to it that, hey, you are resilient, hey, you are strong, you can fucking do this, the better off I'll be. And I don't stop at the main movements. I go into the accessories like that, because I like, again, I think that's just as quality of a stimulus. You tell your body, like, listen, motherfucker, we're going to have to squat 782. All right, so when you're doing these rows, you can't bitch out at 2 plates on each side. Like, fucking load up 4 plates. Okay, so you have to use a little bit of body English. Who gives a fuck? You know? And so I think that it reinforces the resilience and the strength aspect when it comes to the accessory work. And again, just my personal experience, I still end up with a great pump. I still end up sore the next day. So that's my 2 cents there. But yeah, man, I mean, I guess that's the video, right? Yeah, I mean, like I said, dude, I genuinely believe that this was probably one of the best squat days I've had in a really long time. If nothing else, like to the naked eye, that might see like, okay, yeah, like this was only 7-11, like it's not. But you don't understand. To have technique be pretty much 100% consistent from each of these sets to each of these sets, like that's already a win. But then also to have the amount of stability and control I had with this, especially on this bar, I would argue that I had more stability and control with this 688 single here today than I did with 683 opener at nationals, wearing stiff sleeves and all, and being fully peaked and all that shit. So that says something, man. I mean that's a huge win. So I'm really happy about that. My mindset, I guess, is a good segue, and we'll end here. My mindset going into my training now, and pretty much everything, is I know what's coming for me, man. Like I really do. I know what is inevitable. My success is inevitable. And I'm not saying that from a place of arrogance. I'm saying that from a place of confidence. Um, and I believe that that is true of you as well. We're all on different paths. And so success looks different to each of us. But how I define success, what it is that I'm building towards, what it is that I expect to come to me, I truly believe it's mine, and so I'm not really worried, and I'm applying myself. I'm giving 100%, but it's really just the process that I care about, not really the outcome. And then even that, dude, it's like, I'm not worried about shit anymore. Like I'm not trying to be that concerned about, what's going wrong, what's going right. Like let me just apply myself, And that's kind of been the mindset I've adopted, I would say, since this peak started. Like even my feedback to my coach, I would say starting from like last week, even if shit didn't go the way I wanted it to, or shit went wrong or whatever, I didn't even say anything about it. I just upload the videos, done. It's done. I executed, move on, and that's it. There's no, oh well, if I did this or I could do this. No, none of that, bro. Just fucking, let's just train. Let's just have fun. Let's just train, do what we need to do, and that's it. And that's how I approach like everything, my acting stuff, like everything. And so, but speaking of which, I actually have an audition I gotta do a self tape for tonight. But yeah, oh, I can't show you this. These are the sides. But yeah. So anyway, my point is, the mindset is, what's for you will come to you. God will steer, but you have to row. And so, yes, the destination is really, really, really important. But what's more important is that you focus on here, now, execute, row, right? Just row. And if you do that much, I believe you will move forward. And I'm excited for Rising Tide, man. I can't believe it's only like 2 3 weeks away, which is crazy. Like the idea that next week is my last heavy week before I'm literally going to be getting under some of the heaviest weight I've ever gotten under in my life is like so weird to think about, so crazy to think about. I've always found that strange with powerlifting. Like it's powerlifting is so different from every other sport because in soccer and football, nothing really changes. Like, there's a lot to be prepared for, but the only thing you have to worry about is obviously, to win, there's a lot of factors. And obviously in a contact sport, it might suck if you get fucking trucked, but it's different when you have to go into one moment, 9 attempts, 9 minutes of your life after training for months, if not years, for these moments, right? And knowing that it's only you who can make this a success and that you're going to have to get under hundreds of pounds of weight. There is no escaping that. That's inevitable, right? There's just like something like different about that and something strange about that. Whereas football, it's a game, and so going into the game, like, yeah, it might hurt, yeah, it might suck, but you're gonna have fun, and you're prepared, you're with your team, and so it's a different, I don't know, it's just different. And then you have so many games back to back, you just kind of get into the flow of it. Even the game itself, 48-minute game, like, dude, you're gonna lose yourself in that game. You're gonna find your flow state in that game. Whereas powerlifting, it's not really like that. So Yeah, it's super interesting, but yeah, it's crazy to think that it's so close. Um, I'm excited, man. Like I genuinely believe that this meet will set the tone for what we will do going into nationals. Again, I have my own goals, but I'm not really aiming for any numbers. I'm kind of aiming more for, I think, just overall standard of execution and um, and just enjoying the experience, being present. It'd be the first time that my girlfriend will be handling me at a competition. So I'm going to teach her how to handle some certain situations. That way she feels prepared if I did want her to handle me at nationals. I think all in all, it's going to be great. I think it's going to be a really solid meet, and I'm excited. I'm excited. But fuck everything else. Like you drown everything else out. Now, when you are in the 4 week zone, it is purely just what do I need to do to execute and be the most explosive, tenacious, resilient fucking athlete on the planet? What do I need to do that? Let me fucking do that. And that's it. No bitching, no moaning, no complaining. If something goes wrong, who gives a fuck? If something goes great, who gives a fuck? It doesn't matter. We are on one track mind and we're moving forward regardless of what happens. There's no feeling anymore. It's not like, oh man, none of it exists anymore. And so that's the mindset. You just it's full steam ahead. You've made a commitment to be here. Things are going well enough for you to be here, so fucking go. And when I say well enough, I mean you're not super hurt or you don't have any family obligations, whatever. So, so yeah, and actually, I am grateful because small shout out to Thomas Lilly, who coaches me. He also coaches Colton the Limit Breaker, Dan Griggs, Lily Riley, a couple of other heavy hitters. Um, I think he aligns with that mindset. I don't want to speak for him, but I feel like that's one of the reasons why I had started working with him was because we spent 6 to 8 months in pure mentorship calls prior to nationals, really with no intention of working together in this capacity, and it was purely just like I just want to learn. And throughout that process, like I kind of just found that our mindsets aligned in a lot of ways on these types of things, and so and which is really helpful for me because I've had to drive that ship forever. It's rare to have somebody who is willing to give you that type of feedback, accountability, tough love, whatever you want to call it. It's rare for somebody to give you that. And also for somebody to have the level of authority and credential for you to be willing to receive it. Just being honest. I'm not going to name names, but there was one person who did not mean this in a bad way at all, but I saw them in a gym, was training with them, and he had said, Gav, like, I don't mean this in a disrespectful way, but why does it take you so long to win? You've had so many chances. You've had so many chances. You went to Open Worlds twice. You went to Sheffield twice. Like what is it? How many times are you going to lose, kind of thing, right? Now I played it off like I'm not going to be affected by it. First of all, it's kind of the truth, but second of all, it's like whatever. I'm not insecure about that, and I know that he doesn't mean it in a disrespectful way. But the reason why that's not going to land the way a coach or somebody who I trust or who has a credential, whatever, is going to the way it should land, as in it's motivating, but it's also serious. It's like, hey man, like get your shit together. Like this needs to is because I don't even think that dude has ever even competed. And it was just like, and he's a cool guy. I'm sure he works hard, whatever, but he was younger than me. I don't think he's ever competed. He certainly doesn't compete. And so it's like, you don't know what you're talking about. You haven't even attempted to be great. So who are you to look me in the eyes and tell me that I'm falling short of the greatness I'm attempting to achieve? And the process doesn't look as clean cut and dry as they make it in the movies. You know, that whole training arc that they show for Rocky is about a minute and a half in the movies. In life, that could be fucking 13 years. so so again, man, it's just my point in saying all that is it helps when you have mentors or you have people in your corner who have the authority in whatever way that means, um, to to create buy-in, and to create that trust, and also, not just trust in the sense of like this person wants the best for me, but also trust in like this person knows what they're talking about, and so I'm gonna trust them. And I guess an easy example, these shoes, like that was one of the things my coach was like. He was like, look, which I've heard in the past, but Thomas was like, you should, I don't give a fuck what you choose, but you got to choose one. Like, you stop being indecisive about it. Um, But then he made one comment, which he probably didn't even like think was important, but he made one comment about basically this being what he sees us having the most success with in the future, the flats with the heels. That was all I needed to hear, to know, to now have the confidence like, okay, now it's singular lane, block everything else out, you know? And that's all I needed to hear. So, so sometimes that's what it takes, but it wouldn't hit the same if it was just my boy in the gym who gives me that advice. Because then it's like, yeah, I hear you, bro, I hear you, but, right? So that's all I'm trying to say. All right. I've been yapping for way too fucking long. Thank you guys for tuning in again. Let me know in the comment section if there's anything else you want to see in the future, any sort of things you want me to talk about, cover, or any other formats you want me to try training wise. Yeah, man. And I rarely plug my coaching business, but I should probably do that a little bit more often. If you guys are looking for one-to-one coaching, I'm building out a team. I'm really excited. I mean, I've been building this coaching business for 5 or 6 years now, like the actual business, as opposed to just like being a trainer. 5 or 6 years now, I think I'm closer to like 8 to post, possibly even 10. That's just like if from a training side. Anyway, I've got a great powerlifting coach under me. Of course, I still also do strength and hypertrophy coaching as well. And I am hiring for hyrox, CrossFit, and Olympic weightlifting. Okay. Hyrox, CrossFit are going to be under the same umbrella, but Olympic weightlifting will likely be its own specialist. So that's what we're trying to do, is expand based on specialties and niches. And so I am hiring for that. If you are a coach and that is your specialty, feel free to DM me or email me. I'll drop my email in the description. But if you're an athlete looking for that type of coaching guidance, of course, feel free to apply. I'll leave that link in the description as well. All right, guys. Appreciate you guys tuning into this YouTube video. Man, we're so fucking close. We're so close. I'm excited. I'm excited. All right. If you're going to take the island, you burn the boats. Peace.